Hello, I'm Kathy Fox Alfano, host of Born TV's Election 22, Why Should We Vote for You? Today, I'm welcoming Kari MacRae, Republican candidate for State Senate. Kari, thank you so much for coming, all the way over the bridge? Kari lives in Bourne. We'd really like to get to know you better. First, Kari, tell us, just what does a state senator do?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Okay.
From what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing, I think the biggest thing is we need to have somebody who's willing to stand up against the status quo. Okay. And, you know, right now we have 37 senators that are Democrat and only 3 that are Republican. And that makes it really hard for there to be conversations and balance. I personally don't think that it should be all Republican. I also don't think it should be all Democrat. I think that when we have a closer balance, then it gives us the opportunity and everyone's voice and, you know, equal play. So I think as a state senator, obviously you're a legislator and you want to make sure that the legislation that is put forward or that you support is going to be the right thing for your district. And I see that some of the issues right now is that there might be legislation that would be perfect for, say, the inner city in Boston, but not necessarily going to support the Plymouth Barnstable district the way it should. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think we need to, you know, definitely listen to the people and respond to the constituents and get out there and try to get as much done as we can for them.
Okay. Tell me, what experiences do you have that would make you a great state senator?
I think the experience that I have that makes me a great state senator is that I'm not necessarily tainted by a lot of politics. I'm definitely an independent thinker. You know, the only committee that I sit on right now is the Bourne School Committee. And even at that, I didn't know exactly what that encompassed. And I'm learning as I go through that there are policies that, you know, we need to keep reviewing. And even on the committee, you know, we talk about the different policies and how we might have policies that are 12 years, you know, ago, and we need to revamp those and make sure they're applicable to today. So I think the biggest thing, the biggest benefit for me as a state senator is that I'm not a lawyer. You know, I don't know how to kind of navigate and wiggle through, you know, different things. That could be an advantage for the constituents to elect somebody who's more just like you, a regular person who's just going to work and do the right thing.
Here in Bourne, as you well know, we have 2 very concerning environmental issues. We're looking back both at Holtec, threatening to dump radioactive waste into our Cape Cod Bay, and then the possibility of a wastewater outfall in the canal very near homes and beaches. What can you do to help stop these potential environmental disasters?
Well, I will say that a lot of it has to do with our legislation and also the federal. You know, the federal government, I think, needs to take a bigger position and a bigger stance on stopping Holtec from dumping in the bay. You know, look, I'm not a climate activist, if you will, but I will say that I have common sense. And to think that we have a nuclear plant and there's water and there's an option of dumping it in the bay or not dumping it in the bay, I think we should go with the not dumping it in the bay. That being said, you know, I have looked and have been researching it a little bit. And, you know, I've talked to local fishermen. There's a gentleman that's running in the Plymouth 12th. He's a lobsterman and, you know, a Republican. And he said, Kari, this is really bad. And I said, why is it bad? Tell me exactly, you know, because I'm thinking radioactive waste, you know, water in there is not good. And he said, it's about changing the pH and the chemistry of the bay and the water. There's other ways to get rid of it. I don't think that this is the right way at all to get rid of it. So I think that when you have Republicans, Democrats, unenrolled, all saying, that doesn't look right, that's you know, a positive thing. I will also say that, you know, we do have some legislators. I know that Senator Moran, I believe, is the lead in, you know, the project. That being said, I've also followed what she and other legislators are doing, and the fact in my opinion, that they're even entertaining watching the testing and, being privy to the information when they're doing the testing. Kind of makes me a little concerned that at the end they might allow it because they see certain testing that's done. I personally feel like no matter what, I would fight to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, I don't know exactly how to do that. I don't know what authority I do have as a senator, but I will tell you, I will fight to the end of time to make sure that doesn't happen for my children, my grandchildren, for our fisheries. I mean, when you look at what is it, the EPF, or I always mess up that.
The pH?
Yeah, not the pH, but with there's a lot of EPFs or SPFs or EPFs.
Oh, PFAS?
PFAS, there we go.
PFAS, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Years ago, we didn't think it was going to be a problem, right? So I'm sure there was some testing that was done. It was like, oh yeah, we're going to be okay. Our water can rinse through things, whatever it is, right? I'm not a scientist. Doesn't go away. Right. So even if we have testing right now that as legislators we look at and we see, and then we're going to look at them and say, well, I guess that doesn't look bad. If we allow that, it's going to be 15, 20, 30 years from now that it's probably going to be known that that was a problem. So my position is, you can do all the testing you want, doesn't matter. This should not and will not be dumped in the bay. And we need to get the EPA. Why is the EPA not stepping up and saying no? Right. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And the nuclear, exactly, the RNC. Yeah. And I personally think it's about money.
It is.
You follow the money. Yeah. With any of these bad policies, or when we, as I want to say common folk, but that's what we are. We're citizens. And we acknowledge that that doesn't sound right. Something sounds fishy there. We need to be strong as citizens and say, no, we're not going to allow this. And the last thing that I will say is I did hear that talking to people that are very involved, in the ground on this, saying that the only thing that has been promised from Holtec is that they're going to not dump at all in 2022. Right. Well, we're fast approaching 2023. And there's nothing that says right now that they're agreeing to not dump in 2023, at least as of yesterday when I looked. That's scary to me. And we need to make sure that our legislators are going to make sure that it does not happen.
Right. Housing on the Cape has historically been difficult. Now it's crazy. I'm not talking about finding a beach house for the summer. I'm talking about teachers, firefighters, people in the service industry, medical workers. They can't find an affordable place to live. Nope. And it's going to affect all of us if we don't have these people in our community. What can you do to help alleviate this crisis?
Well, it's interesting because I actually know of somebody in particular who is a nurse who makes about $78,000 a year, has 3 children, single mom. She actually entered for these lottery homes and these different, and they said, you make too much money. And I thought to myself, well, now we're really in trouble, because if we are not encouraging and allowing people who are working on the books with providing you that they are nurses, they are teachers, these are the people that we need in our community. Right. And we need to take care of our citizens and our working force first. I think that having some conversations with some of the people that work for the housing authorities, Wareham, I've had some great conversations with people over there, some here in Bourne and Falmouth as well. Plymouth's doing a decent job. They say that there's too many people on the wait list, and that a fair amount of people that are on the wait list are not citizens. And for me, I feel like we need to first take care of the workforce, the people that contribute, the people that are going to save me and you, fires, teach our kids. Those are the people that we need to put at the head of the list and then kind of trickle down from there. And that's not how it's happening now. How
do we make the housing stock creatively? How can we make that stock larger quickly?
Well, I think there's some crazy things that we could do. We could look. We're dealing with inflation. We're dealing with outrageous building costs, material costs. Something that the state could do, especially when we have a surplus of $4 billion or something crazy. Why don't we give a sales tax break on all materials to build houses right now? That would be great. That would definitely bring down the cost of putting together a house by 6.25%, right? There are things that we could do. And right now, you're not seeing any of those options put on the table. You know, it seems like our legislators right now are talking about, we have a problem. We have a problem. Okay. Well, you've been in, we talked a little bit about term limits, right? You know, off the record. But we have a problem with people that are talking about, these are the issues, we're identifying the issues, but then it's like stalemate. They aren't doing anything to move it forward. And I understand that a lot of the housing issues and a lot of those things are conversations that need to be had right in the municipalities. What is Bourne themselves doing to deal with this? And then they need to address it and bring that, you know, the Bourne selectmen. They should be going to, you know, the legislators and saying, hey, we need your help here, but this is what we think we can do. These are some things we can do on our side. What can you do? And then kind of keep moving up the food chain.
And then there's the bridges. Here in Bourne, we are still waiting to hear anything about the timeline, the design, and especially the design of the access roads. What can you do to help us with that?
I don't know if you've heard much about me, but I'm definitely somebody who is going to voice my opinion, and I will make phone calls, and I will do research like I have, you know, especially as a school committee member, uncovered a lot of things. I think what we need to do is we need to be more forceful in saying that we're done with discussing it. We now need to have a plan. We need to lock down a plan how we're going to address it, and then hold them to it. I was just reading yesterday that, you know, originally to redo the Sagamore Bridge is going to be like $2 billion. Now that wasn't done, and now it's going to be 4.7 or 4.5 billion. It's only going to get worse. And we also, it seems like, are in some sort of debate or fight with, the engineer...
Army Corps of Engineers?
Army, thank you. The Army Corps of Engineers. Because really, right now, it's their responsibility. Why are we not holding them to the fire to say, look, this is going to be catastrophic at some point if we don't get ahead of it. We should not be just responding to fixing things as we see that they're broken. We need to have a plan. For one, we have to decide who it is that's going to put the bridge together. Who is going to fix this? Who's going to own this project? And it seems like we can't even get to that. So I don't know exactly how that happens. Like I said, I'm not a politician. But I will say that if I will ask the questions, and once we figure it out, I will, you know, have my thumb down to make sure that we get that done.
Okay. Public libraries are close to my heart, but trying to renovate or build a new library for this century is an arduous and sometimes decades-long process. What could you do to help add more funding and make the process easier for libraries?
Well, I will say one thing that we need to do, and I've said this for years, we need to separate expenditures when we go to vote. I remember the last vote, the last one that I can think of that stood out in my brain was we had a vote here in Bourne where we were voting on $75,000 for plans to build a new skate park. We were voting on, I believe, a new door for the library, the main library. And maybe a piece of the roof was broken or something.
The cupola.
The cupola, okay, there you go, right. And then there was something else in another building. And we had to vote on that all together as one. And quite a few people, including myself and my husband, were like, look, we're going to put $75,000 right now into a plan, a dream plan for a skate park that, frankly, we're in a recession or going into a recession at the time, is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So why are we going to spend $75,000 to put a plan together? $75,000 would do so much to fix infrastructure that needs to be addressed. So I think one thing that we really could do is break up our expenditures when we're presenting them to the voters so that we probably will get more things through when it's clear and not all together as like those where they say the pork in the bill, right?
Right. They're the CPC articles. That's why they're all put together as one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But it makes it different. I mean, does it have to be put together?
That's the way they generally do it, but I think you can put a hold on things and then discuss them individually.
Exactly. Right. And that's what we should be doing, because I have no problem, pushing my button for 3 different votes, especially where there's important things that need to be done. And we voted yes that day. We voted yes because we needed a new door and we needed the cupola fixed. We voted yes. Yeah. But it was so frustrating that we literally just clicked on yes and threw out $75,000, more than our average teachers make a year.
Right.
Gone. We threw it out. And how many other votes do we cast here locally, in the state house, federally? It just goes on and on.
Tell us more about your stance on education. As the school committee person, you've certainly made an impact. Why don't you tell us about that?
I think the biggest thing to address is the curriculum that we have right now. And the curriculum, as the superintendent said, look, Kari, the curriculum that we use is what we get from the Department of Ed. That's true. But there's a lot in our curriculum that as a school committee we don't dig into, and I think we need to do more of that. I think that's when we're elected as school committee members, I think that's something that we should want to do, is to dig more and ask more questions. Obviously you see that there are things that you see in the news and buzzwords, critical race theory, and so on and so forth. There was some trainings that were going to be offered to the teachers in our school district that specifically in the title were critical race theory. And I brought that to the attention of our chair as well as the superintendent. And based on them starting to do some research, they made decisions to not work with certain groups. One of them was black print. And I tried to put that information out to the public. And as soon as they heard from me, they were like, wait a minute, you're lying, that's this, that. No, you're that woman that says all these things. We need to look at what we're teaching our kids. We need to look at what the core curriculum is. We need to pay attention. And I think that the vast majority of parents in the whole Plymouth Barnstable district during COVID started to see things and question things. And we're seeing it in many, many towns where there are parents that are getting more involved and asking more questions. I think that everyone in our town, all of our teachers, all of the school committee members, the administration, all want the best for our kids. But we need to be more transparent, and we need to do more research to make sure that what we're teaching our kids is what's the best thing for them. We have scores right now. We have scores of, math scores, reading scores, where we're falling below, we're falling behind. And if that's the case, I think we need to spend more time on the curriculum that is very important for their education, rather than so much on the social justice stuff. Doesn't mean that shouldn't be part of, but I don't think that should be, the front and center. And one other comment that I do want to make on that is, if you look at the amount of students that we had back in 2015, 16, and you keep following through, we're losing public education students. We're losing them not just to other districts, right? Because Mashpee's losing kids from their districts. Sandwich, Bourne, Plymouth, to charter schools, to private schools. And we have to tell ourselves why, and really be open to what the answers are on some things. And I think sometimes we aren't.
Do you support charter schools?
Oh, I support charter schools. Yes, I personally think that, the tax dollars should follow the students. I also think that towns like Sandwich and even Bourne should give some sort of tax break to the seniors that have already paid for their children and their grandchildren. They've already supported them to go through. I think that when you hit a certain threshold and you are in a certain fixed income, and if you fall within a certain guideline and threshold net worth, that they should have some sort of tax break, because they've done their part as living in our community and supporting through taxes. Like in Sandwich, 70% of the tax 70% of their taxes, their town property tax, goes to support the schools. 70%. That's a huge amount of taxes.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. What is your position on gun control? I know you support the Second Amendment.
Yep.
Does that mean that anyone can buy an assault weapon?
No, I think that in Massachusetts, one good thing about Massachusetts, well, there's many good things, I shouldn't say it like that. You know, I have a license to carry. It's a constitutional right, and I think that we should all, you know, have that right. However, I think that we do need to I think that the way we have it in Massachusetts is good, right? You know, if you have a felony, if this, you know, if you have a mental illness and, you know, you're not being treated, all these different things, I think that that should be part of it. As far as, are you talking about the scary black assault rifles or whatever, right? The way that they shoot is a semi-automatic, just like a regular gun when I go to the gun range, right? You shoot this one, it's so many bullets, and you have to pull the trigger each time. The same thing with the assault rifle that we're talking about, right? You have to pull the trigger each and every time. Do I think that there needs to be, you know, like when Maura Healey came in and did the ban, said, oh, you can't, no, I think that was wrong to do. I think that we need to do more to vet people when they have guns, maybe, but it's a constitutional right, and I think that everybody should have the right to own a gun and be responsible. You know, the vast majority of bad things that happen across the country when it comes to guns is bad guys, right? You look at Chicago; they have the most strict gun laws anywhere. I have no plans on going to Chicago anytime soon, right? It's very dangerous. The bad guys will always have guns. Bad guys will always. And we're seeing this in, where is it? In Ukraine right now. There's been some memes that people have said, oh, geez, you know, the left, you know, has made some memes. We should send our guns to there to help them. It's interesting, right? Because if they actually had the right to bear arms and they had more openness there, you know, they might not be in the pickle that they're in now where they have a shortage to defend themselves. So I think that, you know, we need to be more strict on the laws that we have in place now. There's a law, I believe, where if you are caught with a gun, you're supposed to go to jail for a year. Doesn't happen. No. If you don't have a license to carry and you're caught with a gun, you should go to jail for a year. They don't do that. They're out with $1,000 bail the next day. That's a problem. So instead of us worrying about making stricter laws, we probably would make people safer if we actually enforce the laws that we have on the books now.
Okay. Do you support the potential machine gun range at the Joint Base?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've learned enough at this point to realize that we need to make sure that we are giving all the resources we can and that we must do to protect our country. And if we start pulling things away from our troops to be able to train and be prepared, I don't think that's a good move.
Okay. You state that you want to support the rights of small business owners. What do you mean by that, and how can you do that as a state senator?
I think as far as the rights, I think it's pretty lousy that during COVID that I could go, I made face masks, tons, I made thousands of face masks from many people in the community when people are charging outrageous prices. I remember even Chris Hildeberg for his small business. He couldn't find face masks anywhere. Wow. And I remember him calling me up and saying, I saw that you're doing face masks. Can you make me like 40 face masks? Wow. And I made him tons of face masks. He had a small business, you know, and he wanted to make sure that he was protecting his people, you know, so on and so forth. We had small businesses like even say a Joanne Fabrics that I remember going in to buy the fabric and I couldn't buy anything else in their store. I could only buy materials to make face masks. Yet I could go into Walmart at the time and I could buy seasonal decorations. I could buy anything. There was nothing I couldn't buy in Walmart. But Joanne Fabrics, Nope, couldn't go in there to buy anything but fabric for months. Fabric, elastics. They had everything covered with plastic. That was the one up in Plymouth.
Yeah.
You know where?
Yeah.
Have you been to the one in Plymouth recently?
Sure. Not recently, no.
No, they're closed.
Ah. Okay.
That's not something that we did that really was for the safety of people. If I could go into Walmart and shop and do whatever I want, why is it that they restricted smaller businesses like them? And Joanne Fabrics is a pretty good sized business.
Yeah, wow.
But in our district, though, no, they were a small business. They were a small business. We have businesses right on Main Street that they could not, they couldn't be open for business, right? But yet I could go to other businesses. So I think that we need to do more to protect and support our small businesses and to make sure that they stay in business. Good. You know, Amazon has made millions and millions of dollars.
I know.
And people love Amazon. I've purchased from Amazon before. But we're not doing ourselves justice by only supporting big businesses. We need to focus on small.
So finally, Kari, tell me, why should we vote for you?
I would say the reason why you need to vote for me, oh, wait a minute. Thank you
Sure.
for having this. And I wish Kathy luck as well.
Thank you.
I think the reason why you need to vote for me is because, for one, I support and I am you. I'm a mom, a grandmom. I have a mixed family, if you will. I have so many different things to bring to the table as a small business owner. You know, making face masks during the pandemic. I actually, for the last 3 years, have been at the, at the concerts on the park. I go and do face painting and henna with the kids. As an educator, I see how things are impacting the schools. I see that we need to do more for our teachers. I see that we need to give them more resources. Just this year, we were able to fight, me and Paul McMaster, to make sure that the teachers actually had laptops, individual personal laptops. I think that we need to focus on how we spend money and make sure that we're reaching out to the district to ask them where they need the resources. And I'm a go-getter. I'm an independent, strong woman who will fight for you and will support you and be there when you call to ask for help. And if you'd like to support me, you can follow me at KariMacRae.com, KariMacRae.com. And I ask for your vote on November 8th.
Well, thank you so much, Kari, and best of luck in the upcoming election, which is on or before November 8th.
Yes, it is.
You've been watching this on Born TV. Please watch this and my other interviews on borntv.com. Please watch, meet all the candidates, then you be the judge, get out and vote. Thank you, Kari.
Of course, thank you.